to taking too much of the surplus in rent and driving the rate of profit down so that capitalism would stop. Right through John Stuart Mill, as late as 1850 or so, is worried about the running down of accumulation, capitalism coming to an end. Now, you thought that was just Marx. But no, that was the early political economists that were worried that this thing would run out of steam. They weren't confident that it would go on forever. By the time the neoclassicals come along, oh, it's going to go on forever, so who cares? And we don't need to worry about class struggle and profit rates and all that ugly stuff. We'll just talk about the beauty of the market and how it clears and does optimization. So, and that's what they've been doing ever since, right down to the dawn of the financial bubble of the 2000s, where we had one of the greatest sort of fallacies of modern economics, which was perfect market theory and financial markets. The financial markets assembled all information so perfectly they could never fail. That worked out really well, didn't it? Yeah. Well, that was a very hot theory for 10, 20 years. Now, in the 20th century, things changed a bit, if I can get this to change. The Great Depression in the 1930s, and developments even before that in the Progressive era and so on, meant that the state, government was playing a much bigger role in the economy. So we got from laissez-faire to some kind of statist capitalism. And it really takes off with the collapse of the Great Depression, where equilibrium economics is completely delegitimized, the capitalist class is on its heels, and in comes Roosevelt here, and in comes Keynes, John Maynard Keynes, to write his general theory and invent what's now called macroeconomics, which if you're an economics major, you take that. Okay, that's Keynes in the 1930s, looking at aggregates and the role of government in those aggregates, along with private investors and consumers and so on. You seem really bored. You in the gray t-shirt seem really bored, looking around. You do not seem to like this at all. Oh, okay, great, okay. Well, I don't know. I look around a lot too, and I listen to the talk, so I apologize if I'm wrong. But you'll realize that I see you all. And so whether you're picking your nose or you're sleeping, I see it, and I make comments about it, just like you're probably making comments about me, secretly like, oh my God, look at that little belly he's getting in. Oh, those are really ugly, look at those ugly jeans, and that sort of thing. You know, so, but I do the same thing, but there's more of you. All right, so Keynesianism, by the time Richard Nixon in 1970 declares we're all Keynesians now, it seems like the post-war era is a triumph of Keynesian macroeconomics, the idea of government stabilization and so on. And yet, there was a revolt against that. The revolt had already started back in the 1930s with these Austrian economists, von Hayek and Mises, right through a number of others you've probably never heard of, through Milton Friedman, who you probably have heard of in Chicago School, who developed this idea of liberating markets from this grip of the government regulation, labor, and everything else that was putting a crimp on capitalist style. So it's all about unleashing the market. And they triumphed. That's what we've been doing for the last 30 years around the world, is unleashing the market. So economics has changed. Liberal political economy. So has liberalism. That is which is the political brother of political economy, or cousin. That is the political theory of the bourgeoisie, of the capitalist class, is liberalism. Now, this is confusing for Americans because the word liberal has been twisted around, and now liberal is me. Now, I assure you I'm not a liberal, I'm a radical. And then there are conservatives, there are liberals, there are radicals, there are ultra-conservatives, fascists, whatever. But anyway, in the middle there are liberals and conservatives. So, Obama is a liberal. The idea that he's a socialist is just absolutely amusing. Because he's not only a liberal, he's a neoliberal, which means he's a conservative liberal of our time. Well, you'll learn more about this reading Harvey, but because of the way the readings are distributed, I stuck Harvey in the second half of the class, so you'll have to wait. Anyway, so I thought I'd introduce a few things. Anyway, so you may have heard of John Locke. Hobbes, their great arguments of the 17th century, was about the birth of this kind of liberal political theory about how to keep the state at bay, how to build this economy of private property, private business, and the market, and what kind of government would correspond to that. And believing in the power of capital to produce, which was certainly true, the market, the power of the market, as Adam Smith argued so wonderfully and at least popularly, and of course, a belief that, well, we basically have equality, and the market will then produce efficiency, and from that you get the best of all possible worlds. So liberalism has always denied vast inequality, which it does to this day. It has always denied that the market malfunctions in any serious way, which is true right to this day. And it has always argued that government should basically set the tone, set the rules of the game to get out of the game. In other words, the referees don't throw the football. Well, it kind of sounds reasonable, right? They have the game, you set up the rules, and so on. And liberalism is not wrong. It's only half right. And it's half wrong. Now, there were opponents to liberalism came along very quickly. In Germany and the United States, people like Frederick List, Alexander Hamilton, I'll say more about these another day. And they opposed the liberal view that you should have free trade internationally, that the government shouldn't help out in economic development. And why? Because they were the rising economies fighting against British leadership. And in all the rising economies, they had these kind of theorists who said, wait a second, free trade, free economy, no state, I don't think so. So the U.S. had tariffs, Germany had Bismarck, France had Napoleon, and so on and so forth. And China has a Communist Party, which we'll see. New Deal liberalism comes along in the 30s again, and it produces a political shift, not just an economic, governmental shift, but a political shift that strengthens the power of the working class. And the same thing happens in Europe, but after World War II, with the destruction of fascism and also destruction of the economies. Who comes out the strongest out of the World War II are the working class parties, often the communist parties, and they get what's called social democracy, what we call New Deal liberalism, or just liberalism. But it really means that the government should do things like have social security, it should enter into macroeconomic policy, and so the state really moves out to become a much bigger player than ever before, taking up a quarter to a third of GDP. Which was totally unprecedented and has continued ever since. Neoliberalism comes along in the 1970s or so, at least as a power. The ideas go back earlier, and says, at that time, profit rates were falling. We'll talk about that another day. Crisis and post-war capitalism. These guys suddenly rise to the fore and say, well, if you just liberate capital and markets, all will be well. It's the government and government stimulus and all that's getting in the way. And that's been the deal ever since. They also were against the democratic liberations of the 60s and the New Deal. So liberal becomes a dirty word for them. And they don't call themselves neoliberals. They call themselves neoconservatives or conservatives. And liberalism also has this long relationship to the idea of democracy. That if you get the market and if you get capitalism, you will get democracy. And a good example of that is this quote from Condoleezza Rice: economic liberalization in China is ultimately going to lead to political liberalization. That's an iron law. Tell that to the Chinese. Doesn't seem like it's just happening automatically. And of course, the reality is it has to be fought for. It's always been fought for. There's a long history of this, which I don't have time going to now by any means, whether it's the male suffrage, which, at the revolution in the United States, all men didn't vote. You didn't get property-less voting for artisans and workers, males, until 1811, 1812 in New York State. It spread from there pretty rapidly. Of course, you didn't get any votes for women until 1914? 1919, thank you. And of course, with Jim Crow, you didn't get votes for black people in America until the 1960s. And you still don't have votes for, did you know that immigrants used to vote in school elections in Pennsylvania in 1900? And now they don't get to vote, even though their kids are in the schools. But God forbid, they're probably all illegal. That's irony, people. Don't take me literally. So you've had fight. There's been a long fight. There's a third world part of this fight that goes beyond the U.S. and Europe and so on. And it's going on in Asia today. There's Korea in the 1980s and 90s. Tremendous explosion of working class, led by female workers, by the way, for democracy. Taiwan, breaking the power of the Kuomintang in around 1990, getting democracy. It is not automatic. It is always thoughtful. Now, the conditions may be better. That I'll allow. But it's by no means guaranteed. And there's plenty of failures around the world. We'll talk about the state later in another lecture. But there's plenty of bourgeois dictatorships from Louis Napoleon and the great Second Empire of France to communist dictatorships that were supposed to be for the people but weren't. Third world liberation dictatorships. People like Gaddafi often started off as liberators and end up as dictators. Best example of that today is Robert Mugabe. Doesn't always work out that way. It often goes backwards. So I got to get on to this. I'm not going to do that. Oh, come on. Piece of junk. Okay, neoliberalism, rejection of state management and Keynesian economics. And the principles basically of markets, reduce government, reduce taxes, hold down wages, privatize government programs, and liberate capital. Don't write that list down. You know it already by heart. You just don't know it. You just don't know you know it. Because you're saturated with it. You've heard it all your lives. The age of neoliberalism comes around 1975 and is an attack on the New Deal, on social democracy in Europe, on the 60s, on ISI, import substitution in the Global South, and so on. You'll read more about that from Harvey. There's a history Harvey gives that I won't go into now, but basically the triumph of neoliberalism comes with Reagan and Thatcher in Britain and the United States getting power and then spreading this doctrine and applying this doctrine very dramatically and through actual struggles from above, defeat of unions and so on, defeat of social liberals and regulators and so on. We'll talk more about that another time. California led the way. This has a geography. Where did Reagan come from? California. California passes Prop 13, one of the great steps in American neoliberalism back in 1978. We've been bankrupt ever since. Thank you. Which is why you have to pay, what is it, up to $14,000 now? Yeah. Okay? And, California went through all the stuff that Washington's going through for the last 10 years. The GOP that won't vote for taxes, they actually had compromises even as late as the 1990s, mid-90s, on taxes versus cuts and so on in that crisis. Wake up. And, but in the 2000s, forget it. The Norquist pledge, I will destroy government, no taxes, and so no government. And especially if you have a two-thirds rule like we have in California, which is insane. It's not any kind of democracy you'll find in the Federalist Papers or in John Locke, two-thirds which are supermajorities, but it sure keeps the Republicans powerful here and able to stop everything in a democratic state. This is a state that delivered more votes to Obama than any other, by far. And yet, it's basically been made bankrupt and dead in the water politically for the last decade. There was even a coup d'etat here that was the recall of Gray Davis, governor, and installation of Arnold Schwarzenegger, a Hollywood bimbo. Oh, did I say him? Hollywood, he's a smart man, but he had nothing to offer because he had the same nostrums and they didn't work. He made the deficit worse, and he was a great fan of Milton Friedman and backed, of course, by business. Didn't work out too well. Okay, so a lot of people around the world don't like neoliberalism. And there's a lot of global opposition, which I'm just going to whip through because I'm running out of time here. This often happens to me in my lectures. So Latin America's been going a whole other direction. We had massive upheaval around 2000 against the WTO and free trade, popular demonstrations all around the world. We had East Asian crisis in the 90s when a number of economists broke with the neoliberal ideology. People like George Stiglitz, you hear a lot about. Paul Krugman, who writes in the New York Times, and you'll read a couple of his articles, went from a nice free trade liberal to an anti-neoliberal, and so on. Popular revolts and so on. And radical Islam has also been an opponent of neoliberalism. And that's no joke, right? We're fighting the longest wars in American history been fought over this. What's that about? Although this image is so bizarre, I had to put it up there. An angel over the towers. That's presuming that we are on the side of the angel, which is always the American assumption. So when I get to politics here, and the end game of neoliberalism, my point here is that American politics doesn't show any opposition to neoliberalism, serious opposition. We have a neoliberal president versus reactionary, hyper-neoliberal Republicans. Well, that's really what a combo. And American politics are just, people talk about how it's stuck, right? It's some kind of blockage. But the blockage is partly about party powers and Washington and all that. What we've had in California for years now. And it's about ideology. Yes, it's about ideology. But it's also about the fact that the U.S. doesn't know what to do. That we're in very serious economic difficulties. We just had this phenomenal blow-up over an economy that wasn't doing very well. And after 30 years of neoliberalism, we don't know what to do. But the right keeps saying, do more of it. Do more of the same. Where did my slide go? I like that little slide. Yeah, more of the same. That definition of crazy is when you keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, that's kind of what it's come to with American politics. Well, let's just keep cutting the government. That'll do it. But it won't do it. And we won't even go into war and defense. We'll come to that another day. So here's some big issues in American debates today. The bank bailout. We had this huge bank bailout. People are kind of angry about it, especially since the banks were bailed out, but the homeowners weren't. What's that about? You could have done it the other way around, but we didn't. Billions, $2 trillion for that. Okay, so the banks have to save the banks. You can't let the banks all fail, or you really are in deep shit. That's another technical term. In Europe, they're doing the same thing. They're punishing Greece. Why can't Greece declare bankruptcy? Why is it that one of the great reforms of early capitalism was to get rid of debtor's prison? But Greece is now in debtor's prison because they can't declare bankruptcy. What is that about? It's insane. And we got some, we bailed out our banks, but what did we get for it? We didn't get any mortgage bailouts. We didn't get any regulations. They're still fighting over. We can't even get the best person to be the head of the Consumer Protection Agency. And what I like about Greeks, at least, are out on the streets. What are Americans doing? They think Obama passed TARP. Americans are so confused. Not only are they not on the streets, they don't even know what's going on. Do I put that too harshly? Maybe not. Maybe so. The states are all bankrupt, including ours. Cut. Why isn't the tuition going up? The university's bankrupt. Why is it bankrupt? Because the state cut its funds. Why is that? The state's bankrupt. Why is the state bankrupt? Because its revenues collapse. Not because it spends too much, because its revenues collapse. Why is that? The Great Recession. Why is that? California had the worst Great Recession of any place. And the biggest deficit, our deficit, was 1/3 to 1/3 of all state deficits put together for the last 3 years. Why? Because we were the center of the housing bubble. This is geographic, my friends. It's not about, somebody spent too much over in California because Democratic legislators are idiots. I see you waving your hand, but boy, do I have to finish. hold that question and let's talk about it another day. Okay, especially when you do finance. Okay, and what are they doing in Wisconsin? Fighting over, blame the workers. It must be public workers, because private workers' wages have been slammed for 30 years, but public workers have done better. People like professors. Why don't we slam them? Then everything will be okay, because it works so great in the private sector. There's an interesting chart there, but I'm out of time. The debt debate. I mean, what a fiasco. Well, no, it's a great tactic for the Republicans, but it made no sense. And then the whole debt. Why are we in debt? Because if you look at the charts, the private debt, which was out of hand, which I showed you, was transferred to public debt. That's where all that money went. The public took on the debt that the banks had, and GM had, and a lot of other entities had, and so then public debt went up, in addition to the fact that revenues collapsed. So deficit spending on things like just Social Security, because Granny needs to eat, which I know that's a luxury, but then your deficits go up. So the debt goes up. The problem is, if you don't raise taxes, and you keep cutting, and nothing else is happening in the economy, you're going to have more unemployed people, and lower revenues, and the deficit's going to continue to go up. So it's a brilliant solution. Austerity in the middle of a recession is exactly the wrong thing to do. That's what Roosevelt proved. That's what Keynes proved in theory, and what everybody has forgotten. The government is not a household. The government prints the money. It makes it different. It's a really complex concept, but nobody seems to get it. How about taxes? Why do we pay taxes? Why does the government do it? Warren Buffett thinks he ought to pay more taxes, for God's sake. I love the percentage of Americans who think that they get anything from government. And this, I'm afraid I made it too small. And Americans, it's that joke during the Battle of the Healthcare about government hands off my Medicare that one person had to sign? Americans don't even know what the government does for them. And so they're anti-government because somebody told them you should be anti-government. And because maybe their wages have gone down, or maybe their little business gone bankrupt in this recession, and they don't want to pay taxes. I understand that. I don't like paying taxes either. But what's it for? And particularly, as you'll see when you read Krugman and Reich's articles on reserve, that the corporations aren't spending. The rich people aren't spending. They're sitting on the money. And you need to get the money moving. And they say, oh, well, you can't tax us because we need that money to create jobs. No, you don't. You're not doing anything with it, except sticking it in treasury bills, which, by the way, you hate because they're government. I mean, the whole thing is so crazy, it's hard for me to remain calm. And there is no climate debate because America decided the Earth isn't in danger, so therefore we don't have to talk about it because we got to burn a lot of coal to keep our pathetic coal-burning economy because we don't make enough iPads or even enough weapons, so we better burn a lot of coal because that's all we do well. Okay, stop. Don't move. There are two halves to this course. You've got the syllabus. What I'll do maybe next time is start up it. I put the outline up here. You can look it up for yourself. There are 3 segments here. They make a lot of sense, I hope. And then the readings, there's books. That's on the syllabus. You've all got it. If you didn't get a syllabus, tell me. Come up after. We'll get you one. It's on the B-Space. If you have any problem getting on B-Space at all, please tell me. I'll bring more syllabuses on Tuesday, and hope to see you then.